Hello and welcome into the Knicks-Verse. My name is George, and if this is your first time here or you've been here before and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And turn on the notification bell and the thumbs ups. Very, very much appreciated. But most importantly, comments. I love the comments, the discourse, the back and forth. It highly influences what I do on this channel. And this is our Knicks-Verse, so please contribute. All right, well, today we're going to talk about the only thing that Knicks fans care about, the one question that we have in our minds, which is, how good is this team going to be next season? Did Leon do enough? Did Leon give Thibs the players that he needs? Will Thibs handle the roster in a way that will maximize everyone's performance? Well, this is what I'm going to look at throughout this offseason. Today, we're going to begin with the starting five. We've revamped the starting five. In essence, compared to the starting five that ended the season, we have 3 new players. So 60% of the starting unit is changed over. Now, Mitch, he was the starter at the beginning of the season, but he only lasted 30-something games. So that's a big impact. Having him full season will be a tremendous impact. And now we've replaced Kemba. What am I saying? We've replaced Alfred with Kemba, and we've replaced Reggie Bullock with Evan Fournier. So that's nice. I mean, you know, when you look at them and you do the eye test, you're like, yeah, the Knicks team, it looks better. It's like, seems like they should be a lot better. But how can we know? Well, what I've done is I've done a deep dive into the net ratings of these 5 players, and I will show you what it means. Let's go. Here we have the last season's net rankings. So you can see number 1 was Utah Jazz with a 9 net rating. Clippers were 2 with 6.1. Phoenix Suns 5.9. Milwaukee Bucks 5.8. 5.5 Sixers, and so on and so on. And our awesome Knicks finished 9th, 2.4, just above the Mavericks and the Hawks, 2.3, 2.2. And we all saw the Hawks came on strong the latter half of the season, and they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is a good indicator here. There's also historical data suggesting that teams that are not in the top 4 of net rating generally do not win an NBA championship. There are a few outliers of the past 21 seasons or so, but it's a very rare occurrence. And you can see right here, Milwaukee Bucks, they were 4th, and then look who the opponent was in the finals, Suns. So either one of these two had won, it would have fit in with the top 4 net ranking and NBA champion. So there you go. And here we had the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is for a very important reason, because we're going to look at the Knicks. Here we go. Here we go. So this is the per 100 possessions. Last season, 2020-21, these were the 5 starters. These were the guys who got the predominant amount of starts for the New York Knicks. And I got all their stats here. Look at that beautiful 40-40. Look at that. Fantastic. Of course, 0 from Nerlens, and look at what Alfred gave us. Very, very poor in that department. Get all the way to the end here. Here we go. So the starters had a net rating of 3.2 overall. Now the team had a net rating of 2.4. So that is about 75%. 2.4, 75% of what 3.2 would be. So that's because the bench is usually weaker. That's historically what happens. Now, we had Derrick Rose on the bench, so that really helped us tremendously. So here we go. This is it. Now, what happens if you insert Fournier, Mitch, and Kemba in the starting lineup to replace Reggie, Nerlens, and Peyton? This is what happens. I'm not going to show you those below because those are fun. All right, so now what I've done is for Kemba, I've taken his last 2 seasons, his 2 seasons at Boston, and averaged them out. And then for Fournier, I took his entire totals of last season that he had for the Magic and for when he came over to the Celtics. And then Mitch, these are Mitch's stats from last season for about 30 games or so. All right, don't worry so much about these totals because this is all per 100 possessions. Doesn't really mean much. And I'm also keeping, this is for the 2021-22 season, I'm also keeping Julius Randle's stats the same and RJ stats the same for this particular exercise. So as we move all the way through. All right, so Fournier, 115 offensive rating, 115 defensive rating, gives you a 0 net rating. Mitch is a beast. 131, 104, net rating of 27. So you can see Nerlens was 121, 101. Nerlens actually was a better defender, but weaker offensive player. And these are things we know. We can see it with our own eyes. But the overall increase is 7 points net rating from Mitch being the center. Now, here's Kemba. Kemba's overall for the past 2 seasons combined to a 115 offensive rating and a 112 defensive rating for a net rating of 3. When you add all these up, this comes out to a net rating of 6. 6 compared to 3.2. Okay, so what happens? What happens if we actually go in and do some projections on Randle and Barrett for this season? We don't just stick with the numbers they had last season, which is what we did in the previous scenario. All right, so what happens if we go in and we say, okay, let's play with Julius Randle's numbers. All right, so I think Julius is going to basically take a few more threes. I think he averaged 7.3, so he's going to get about 8 to put up 8 per game. He's still going to be 40%. I don't think there's going to be regression, especially if you watch any of his workout videos and stuff. He's going to be better. I'm projecting him to improve, but not improve as much as I actually think he's going to. I'm trying to be a little bit chill about it. So 40%. His overall field goal percentage is almost 47% because I think he's going to become a more efficient 2-point shooter. He's going to complete 50% of his 2-point shots. I think because he's going to drive more, because the paint's going to be open more, he's going to get more free throw attempts. I think he averaged about 8 last season, so now he's going to average about 10, so 81%. All right, so that gives us an offensive rating of 113, defensive rating of 106 for a net rating of 7. So he went from 111, 107, net rating of 4 to 113, 106, net rating of 7. That's not outlandish at all. In fact, he may even do better than I'm projecting. Now let's look at RJ. For RJ, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to look at Jason Tatum's year 2 and year 3 numbers, combine them together, and what does that give me? And guess what? It gave me pretty much in line with what I think RJ is going to do. I've already projected RJ is going to be a 20-point scorer this season. That's what I feel. And the same thing for Fournier. So we might potentially have at least 3. Who knows? I mean, Walker, Kemba may as well. So someone's going to not get shots up. But that's neither here nor there because we're talking about efficiency here. So RJ Barrett, 45%. Now, last year, he was at 44.1%. So there's a little increase, nothing drastic. If his 3-point shooting stays, where it's at, he was 40.1%. Let's say he drops a little bit because he's going to put him up more. He goes from 6.2 attempts to 8. His output is going to increase. So as the volume goes up, usually percentages go down a little bit. But with him, I'm going to keep him around that same range. 2-point efficiency, that I do see that he's going to have a marked increase from 45.7% last season to 48.1%. His mid-range game is coming along. This is just something that's totally possible for him. He's going to get 5.5 free throw attempts, which is basically what he had last season. But now this is Tatum's free throw shooting. 83%. You know what? I kept it at that. We'll see if RJ can replicate that. But either way, that doesn't change it too much. So I just kind of kept him in line there. Now let's get to the ratings. His offensive rating is going to be 109, defensive rating 107, a net rating of 2. So that gives us a grand total of 7.8 compared to 3.2. So this is like more than double, more than double the net rating for these starters compared to last season's starters. That's what happens when you replace three guys who are much better offensive players than you had before. Now, defensively, there's a drop. You can see Alfred was a 110 defensive rating, so Kemba's a 112, which really isn't that big a difference considering, you know, how much smaller Kemba is than Peyton. But look at Peyton's offensive rating, was a 99. That just was a tragedy. And Kemba 115, really pretty. Nerlens, I mean, shows you right here. This is where we were. This is probably where we're gonna be, but has a decent chance of where we're gonna end up. Somewhere here for the starting unit. Now, mind you, this doesn't translate. This is not apples to apples to overall net ratings in terms of teams. But if your starters have more than doubled their output, their net output, then you know this 2.4 is going to go up. They're probably going to end up somewhere in the 4.5 range, which is good enough for a top 7. It'll be good enough for a top 8 total in the NBA net rating, which means the New York Knicks will be one of the better teams. There you see how much better this starting 5 unit is than the starting unit we had last season. I mean, it's dramatically different. And then when you start thinking about, like I just showed you in the numbers, if RJ continues to make another leap, if Julius even stays where he is but kind of refines his game a little bit, this team is going to be, the starting unit is going to be twice as productive as it was before. Now, we're not talking about actual numbers like, you know, Julius is not going to score 48 points a game, but in terms of its net rating, the net rating will be double what it was last season for the starting unit. And man, if you know, our starting unit was a problem because for a long stretch there, when Rose was coming off the bench and we had IQ and Obi was starting to come on, the team was looking good. That bench unit was looking really good. Guess what? Now we still have that unit, but we've added some great pieces. Grimes, Deuce. We're not sure if, Jericho Sims is going to be on the squad. He might end up being a Westchester most of the time, but he's definitely going to play. He's definitely going to play at some point on this team. This team is deep. It's deep, and the starting unit has increased so much that I've said it before. I think holding on to the 4th seed is very, very, very possible. And I will go deeper. I will analyze the bench next, and then I will put out my entire season projections in upcoming videos. All right, well, once again, my name is George Esquerra of Into the Knicks-Verse. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. If you like this video especially, please do so. And thumbs ups, comments, and I will see you around the Knicks-Verse.